I just arrived back to this beautiful country of India at lunch today. I've been in Sweden for a couple of days together with Dr. Sapna Putti, who works at Office of Principal Scientific Advisor. And she is in Sweden to connect with the Swedish infrastructure for innovation and science. So I've had a lot of very interesting meetings together with her and the Swedish business community and the Swedish government and also state organizations. And I have a prepared speech here, but I would just think that the most important thing that I want to mention today is about what we did during her visit, because that, I think, is one part that explains why Sweden is quite successful when it comes to both digitalization but also innovation and business as such. I was also thinking that when I arrived here earlier on today, and I went through Delhi, and I live in Vasant Vihar, and I realized that Sweden, we have a lot about the population of Vasant Vihar. 10 million people living in Sweden, and the full Delhi, I think, is about 25 million people. So it's such a small country, but I mean, we have IKEA, we have Volvo, we have Saab, Atlas Copco, AstraZeneca, so many huge companies that originates from Sweden. And when it comes to digitalization and everything that's been done within that field, we have, and here I'm going to my talking points, for instance, some of them you might know: Skype, Spotify, Klarna, King, Mojang, iSettle, Kry, Trustly, Truecaller, Yubico, and others. So there are plenty of companies sprung from this soil of Sweden. And what I would like to mention here is that from the early beginning of everyone's life in Sweden, you're encouraged to collaborate. And I think this is one thing that it's important to take with you when you talk about development and to develop the digital context of a small country as Sweden, or a city, or a state, or a big, enormous country as India. I would also tell you that I'm before I begin, I'm the counselor for science and innovation, and I work at the embassy, Swedish embassy in New Delhi. And please contact me if you have any questions after this speech, and I would love to try to connect you with the Swedish infrastructure as well, if you would like to do that. So when it comes to new technologies, Sweden has made a strong commitment, and AI and IoT, for that sake, we try to use that to solve societal challenges. And I've listened to the speeches here before and also the session before, and I totally agree with the importance to have a systemic approach here. Look at the infrastructures to support development, because there are so many people out there that are innovative, and they have ideas, they want to do things, they want to start their own businesses and such, but they need to have the support to do that, of course. So openness, collaboration, integrity, ethics, that's part of the pillars of the Swedish way to work. I also had a look at how many people are working with the digital sector in Sweden. And we, again, 250,000 people and that's nothing really in India. But in Sweden, remember, we're only 10 million people, so it's a big part of the Swedish community that are working within the sector. Also, about 6% of the GDP comes from the digital sector. So that's also that also describes how big and important this sector is in Sweden. In Stockholm, my hometown in Sweden, my hometown now is Delhi, of course. I've lived here for 1 year and I hope to stay here many more years. 1 in 10 people work in the digital tech sector. So it's huge. And to me, it's also quite, since it's so big, it's so difficult as well to talk about it as one sector, because it's also now it's incorporated in everything that you do. So many leading tech companies have, because of this, established their businesses in Sweden to access the European market. So it's easy to be in Sweden and work with digitalization. We have, for instance, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Fujitsu, Google, IBM, here, Microsoft, Samsung, and others. They have set up headquarters in Sweden to be able to reach out to the European market. So having one of the fastest growing tech startup scenes in the world, not only producing startups, but also breeding unicorns in Sweden. This achievement testifies to the strength of the market, which stands out for its entrepreneurial spirit and vibrant culture of cross-disciplinary collaboration. And I would like to just briefly pinpoint and mention 5 key strengths of Sweden's digital technologies ecosystem, or actually it will be maybe 7. So the 2 first ones they are purely related to infrastructure. The tradition, how we work in Sweden, as I told you earlier on, is to engage on many different layers. So the infrastructure of the Swedish innovation system, you will find it on a national level, on a state level, on a municipal level. You will find it within the large companies. You would also find rich people engaging and supporting startups and entrepreneurs. I think that is important because you will never have one fixed system or one fixed model that can solve development when it comes to this. You need to have systems that are spread out all over the society. And another thing is that you collaborate between private companies, and that was mentioned in the former speech here, private entities, publicly funded entities, universities, civil society. That's also part of the system itself. To me, it's not a problem to reach out to companies. If I'm a young entrepreneur within this sector, it's easy to go to the private sector, to the public sector, to different entities that support the development of technology. Also, we have more than 30 testbeds in Sweden that support AI, Internet of Things, 5G or 6G, gamification, IT security, cloud computing, factory connectivity, and such. And that's, again, we have to think about it. It's only 10 million people living here, but we have more than 30 testbeds working, especially with this. So you, once again, think of it as Vasant Vihar and realize that this is something that we emphasize in the country. Finding contexts where we can try, experiment, and meet each other, people to people. We are also trying to focus on low-carbon digital infrastructures. I have mentioned that in Stockholm and also in the rest of the country. We have a booming ICT sector, employing 6.1% of the population, and that's twice the European Union average. We have world-class skills in automation, AI, machine learning, e-commerce, and other areas. And of course, it's built on other collaboration that we've had earlier on within other fields, where you can see, for instance, with the car industry, with Volvo and Saab and such. And finally, we have 4 times as many connected devices per person than anywhere else in the world. So a final word here. I think that if there is anything that I can bring from Sweden, it would be that the importance of focusing on the infrastructure, open up the systems. It's no problem if you have competition between governmental entities, because they will drive the development forward. It's part of the game, sort of. And finally, I just want to say that I truly believe that this is the place to be at the moment from a global perspective. India will be the next superpower, both when it comes to this field, but also other fields. And that is the reason why we want this little country of Sweden. We want to be here. We need to be here, and we have to be here and collaborate on an equal basis together with you. So finally, please collaborate with us. We want to collaborate with you. Thank you.